What's up, my ninjas? I'm STRYDENT, and today we're taking a look at the Icons Mr. Miracle figure. But before I get into that, I want to talk about action figures and how much I love them and what I love about them. And it actually starts from this. I love the process, the concepting process, then the engineering process after, you have a sculpt, then the paint process, the engineering the accessories, all of it. I just love how it all works together for the benefit of the whole. I love to see a two-dimensional concept or two-dimensional character become three-dimensional. Sometimes it even stretches further than action figures, because I love that with movies. It's one of the best parts. It's my favorite thing to do, with the creative process in this kind of media. I like figures of all types, from all eras, of all scales, different articulation schemes, etc., etc. I mean, you see here, this is a good mixture of the old, the new, the in-between, you know what I mean? And these aren't even like the best examples. They're not the best figures, but they're figures in my collection. I like them for different reasons. None of them are perfect. All of them have their issues, but I love them. I love the fact that some of these characters were represented, back in the Toy Biz, early Toy Biz superheroes days, and then the Marvel Legends, and then, Marvel Select and such like that. My favorites, of course, are SH Figure Arts. But you've seen on my channel, that I collect a huge, 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 huge array of different types of action figures, and it doesn't even matter. I mean, I got G.I. Joes, I've got 12-inch figures, I've got SH Figure Arts, Figmas, I've got so many different types, and what is fun for me is putting them in action. SH Figure Arts allow me to achieve that the best, but I'm all about putting my figures in action. It feels so nice and satisfying to see your figure actually able to represent the way they do in live action. I love when the figure has just enough articulation to allow you to do these things, and it makes me happy to actually do it and then go do my stuff, for the day, come back home and see my figure sitting there like a little version of the dude on the TV show or girl on the TV show or cartoon or whatever that I just watched in figure form right there on my desk or my shelf or whatever. And I'm sure this is the appeal for a lot of people. I'm all about the action. I'm an action junkie. I like having them do things. I like having them look the part. I like knowing that I can achieve some certain things with the figures that I choose to collect. You know what I mean? I give a lot of things a chance because I want to see what they're capable of. And, it only takes one time for me to figure out, like, yeah, no, or yeah, this is a thing. I want this. I want to continue with this, Which brings me to this. Years ago, when DC Collectibles, I guess they switched over from DC Direct to DC Collectibles and they started doing the New 52 stuff, they had these polls up where they were trying to figure out what articulation scheme should we use for our next character. The first time I saw it was when they were going to release the New 52 Hawkman. I saw this exact, poll. You would think it'd be a no-brainer, but people in the comments argued and argued, and most of them argued against the articulation. The people at DC Collectibles were saying, we can give you the same sculpts, we're just going to integrate the articulation into those sculpts, because they wanted to compete with, which I don't get, they wanted to compete with, other highly articulated 6 to 7 inch action figures. So they were going for this. I was like, see, that makes sense. It's the most articulation you're going to get. And if you're paying attention, this is pretty much what was proposed for the icons. This articulation scheme, with the exception of the anatomical thigh swivel. So anyway, people still argued and argued and argued and argued, and they kind of went for more of a BA hybrid, which is strange. But if you think about it, look at like the Suicide Squad figures, the Justice League War figures, and you'll see that they started to kind of integrate that in there, where you had like the ball hinged legs so that they could actually, or ball socket legs so they could actually do splits and stuff. And then they had the ball-socketed shoulders, so their arms could go out and stuff. It's just that they had varying degrees of articulation in their arms and the legs. You know, there was no, after the thigh being connected to a ball socket joint, there was nothing. Just the knee, that's it. Sometimes they give you a boot swivel, but you know, they kept it really simple. And I'm saying to myself, what is with the so-called fans not getting it? You know what I mean? Why don't you get it? Anyway, then we get these guys years later. This is all after the super articulated Batman from Arkham City. We start getting this more and more. You saw it in Arkham Knight. You got them with these guys. You got them with some of the Capullo stuff. But you see how much articulation is afforded throughout all of this. And for the most part, it all works. You know what I mean? It's not like they just cut shit in there and then didn't engineer it to make it work. It works. That's the important part. And this is what I was expecting them to do with all their figures going forward. Because, I mean, why would you not engineer your figure properly to utilize the articulation? Anyway, icons. We see the icons at, I think it was Toy Fair and, you know, different toy shows after that, San Diego Comic-Con, etc., etc. And it's like, damn, these are going to be awesome. Immediately, we all said, DCUC, this is going to be the replacement or the spiritual successor or whatever. Also, though, we were given images of the multiverse, which was supposed to pick up somewhat where DCUC left off in a way, but focus more on the various versions of DC comics in media. But the icons looked like they were about to be the truth. I mean, you look at these pictures and you're like, why would they not be as big as typical, you know, DC collectibles figures? But when they came out, everybody started getting mad because they were smaller. DC Collectibles said they were 6-inch figures. A lot of them clock in at a little under 6 inches. Batman is exactly 6 with his horns. Then they started pointing out that they make, you know, 6.7 inch and 7 inch and then 6 inch, and then they're giving you these kind of guides so you could see what they do. And it's kind of strange, you know, because you're thinking like, damn, if I remember correctly, everything DC Collectibles made was closer to 7 inches. For me, I'm not so much annoyed with the size of the figures, because certain figures, I always cherry picked my DC Collectibles so that I could get like taller guys from them and let them be the you know, go-to version of this character. Like my Martian Manhunter, the only one I've ever had was from the McGinnis you know, line. I think it was called Classified, something like that. And to me, it's the best one because he's got the physique and he's tall. He's over 7 inches tall, which is awesome. That's how he should be. But, you know, characters like Blue Beetle, I would always get like the second Blue Beetle. Or, no, I'm sorry, third. Not Dan Garrett, not, what's his name? God, why can't I remember his name? Ted Kord, but Jaime Reyes. He should be smaller. So I was thinking of getting him in the icons line. But anyway, I came across all these diagrams and they explained all this articulation. This is where I get frustrated with this line, because I was told one thing and I was given something else. They showed all this articulation. You see, you know, crazy shoulder swivels. You see how they have a diaphragm joint up top. You see they don't have the hinge on the lower portion of their waist. This actually almost looks like the Capullo series articulation. It probably is the Capullo Batman, but these were things that popped up during the you know, the icons cycle. The strange thing is that, so like I said, this looks like the Capullo Batman with way more articulation, like the double jointed elbow and stuff. But you're looking at an important one for me, or important piece, is the thigh swivel. I need anatomically correct thigh swivels. It's kind of hidden by the trunks because of that line, but it would have worked. So here it is again with the icon stuff. And I'm saying to myself, wow, this is like everything that I want. But you quickly notice that the thigh swivel is not there on the side where the actual figure is. You notice that the torso joint works a little bit differently from the previous picture, and I was wondering how will that work in real life? You know, with 2 sets of hinges in the torso, he should be able to crouch up into a ball like an SH Figuarts, you know? So finally we get one in hand, and so much of this proposed articulation is not there. And it's stranger to me because a lot of people aren't saying anything about it. And this is usually why I say something. The really hardcore, you know, I take pictures of all my action figures, blah, 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 you know, ACBA community. You're not hearing this stuff. Nobody's saying, why didn't they give us the articulation? Instead, the big stink is the scale. Some of these characters are supposed to be smaller, and I get it, and it's fine, and I don't have any issues with it, but a lot of them, like Batman, like Dick Grayson and Batman, they're tall. They're supposed to be. But these figures don't do them that kind of justice because they're the same size. I mean, this Batman is about the same size, same height, different musculature, but same height as Oliver Queen. He should be bigger. He should be much bigger. You know, like a lot taller, or, you know, at least a good, you know, half a head taller at least, you know, and his shoulders should sit higher. His musculature should be bigger. You know what I mean? Like there's a different physique for the two of them. But instead they're the same with a slightly different musculature because Oliver's suit has baggy upper body and form-fitting legs and stuff. And it's just kind of strange that they went in that direction. Or then you put Batman next to like Deadman or Mr. Miracle, and they're all of comparable size. And it shouldn't be like that. But, you know, people have focused more on that part than the fact that you can't make these guys do any more than, you know, a DCUC. Matter of fact, there are DCUCs that are more posable. Why is that? Why is it that there are people still saying that based on, you know, the lacking, all these lacking points, that this is still quality? People still saying I want to buy the line. The sculpts are amazing, don't get me wrong. All the sculpts look phenomenal. But like, if the figure doesn't do what it's supposed to do, then what's the point? And I understand how a lot of collectors, the point for them is to just have the character represented. But this is about the umpteenth time that 95% of these guys have been represented. So for people to go apeshit for this, it's kind of stupid. I mean, from DC Collectibles alone, this is the umpteenth time that some of these guys have been represented. You know, Atomica, I can only remember one other version of Atomica, and she was small. Harley, there's countless Harley figures. Aquaman, countless ones, you know. Green Lantern, countless. Deadman, not so much. Blue Beetle, same thing, not so much. I know there's at least 3 other Blue Beetle figures out there. Black Adam, another one. Maybe not so much, but I know they've done Black Adam figures over the years. So there's not so much new here that people need to go crazy and say, oh my God, I want this. I got to get this. I got to get this. The consensus should be that DC Collectibles needs to step it up. And like I said, the articulation schemes that we were shown don't look like what we ended up as the final thing. So for me, I'm going to go back to my points and why I am a little annoyed. I only wanted Mr. Miracle from this first wave because I knew he was going to be shorter. So I figured, you know what, Mr. Miracle can be a short character and he can stand next to Barda and actually be smaller than she is. And it worked because the DCUC figures are almost 7-inch scale and he stands about just a little bit like a head and shoulders shorter than her. Almost a full head and shoulders shorter. So it looks right, you know what I mean? She looks like she's kind of towering over him, and I like that. That's what I wanted. But, you know, playing with him, he's an escape artist, he's a contortionist, he does all the things you need to do to be a really good escape artist. I can't really pose him doing anything. I mean, like, everything in the trunk is just, like, it's limited. And you'll see it in the review. Yet so many people are giving these guys decent marks. And I don't know if it's me expecting more or if it's just that people have become so kind of used to getting less than what they were told they were going to get that they just accept it and move on. But anyway, maybe it's just me. But I will give you all the pros, the cons, all the straight up information, exactly how it is in the review. And maybe you guys will be able to come to a better conclusion at the end of this. So here we go. So we're looking at the Icons Earth2 Mr. Miracle. This is by DC Collectibles. It's a beautifully painted figure. In certain ways, the representation or presentation of the figure is just, it's nice. I mean, the paint job is nice. I mean, it's some stuff that you expect from DC Collectibles. Now, as we look at the sculpt and paint even more, the sculpt is spot on. It may even be the same head that they used for Dead Man with added details on it, because this line is taking a page out of the book of DCUC and Marvel Legends, where they have a body type that they use for the base of every figure, and then from there they kind of add on to it and make, you know, the unique parts that are needed to separate them from one another, so you don't feel like 100% you just bought the same figure as, you know, the rest of your collection or something. You know what I'm saying? He looks really good. I have to say, like, the reason why I went for him, and I'm going to get into it later, is just because proportionally this is a smaller figure than the DCUC Barda, so he'll look perfect next to her. But I like his musculature. I like the way the cape is not in the way, and it's a rubber cape, but it's very soft. The head sculpt is phenomenal. The paint job is also phenomenal. I mean, it's something that we're supposed to expect from DC Collectibles. I mean, they always do top-notch sculpts, top-notch paint jobs, and you know, top-notch accessories. I mean, they always do a great job presentation-wise with their figures. I haven't been having quality control issues, and this guy didn't give me any quality control issues. But the cape looks nice. It actually looks like it's doing something, like it's a real piece of cloth. I'm still amazed at the paint job, though. I don't know why, but it's a nice paint job. Beautiful. I mean, there's no slop. You've got a wash on top of metallic paint to help bring out some of the musculature. The yellow is clean. The green line work is super clean. There's no rub. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you see on figures with immaculate paint jobs, a lot of paint rub because, you know, if it has articulation, then boom, you're going to run into this, but no paint rub. So I'm impressed with those things. So overall, just looking at him, posing him and stuff, you know, he looks pretty cool. I'll get into, you know, what I think about the articulation a little bit later, but overall, I think his presentation actually is pretty good. Better than, you know, the Batman and the Green Arrow that they, you know, that are released next to him. Dead Man is kind of simplistic, but there's a lot of good things about the way he was presented. Now, the issue I do have is, even though there's lots of little details popping up all over the place, I don't like the gummy joints. They're not gummy, but they're skinny. You know what I mean? So, like, they were warped in the package. And so, you know, a little bit, I didn't even do the hairdryer method. I just slowly, like, kind of bent the parts just slowly. And I didn't go very far back into place, and it stuck. But I don't like how the elbow joints are a little they're not flimsy, but they're skinny. You know, over time, something's going to happen, and you're going to have to worry about that stuff. But, you know, looking at the figure, like I said, it's an awesome sculpt. Awesome paint job. It's well done. Now, for everything they do right with the sculpt and paint, let's see if the accessories hold up. So, fists, arrow discs, and the mother box. Those are some good accessories to have for your Mr. Miracle. He comes with open hands on him already. They kind of look like they could grip, but you also get your fist, you know, hands so that he can punch stuff. Or you can at least pose him in those aggressive poses when flying around with his arrow discs. The arrow discs themselves kind of have dual purposes. They kind of have the purpose of being the stand for the figure, but they also are the arrow discs, and they have these little kind of bumps underneath them to keep him off the ground You attach them via peg system into the bottom of his foot, and it looks pretty cool. The pegs, I don't know if they work with any stands that we have, but it's possible because it's DC Collectibles. Now the mother box. The open hands don't actually grip the mother box. I thought they would. I tried to make them grip the thing, and they don't. I think that's lame. You give us an accessory that they hold, you give us that version of the accessory, and then the figure, you have to balance it in his hand. I think that's lame. In this day and age, he should have at least had either a hand that was sculpted to it so that we don't have to mess with it, or, you know, something else altogether, you know? I just think they missed the mark when it comes to, you know, this particular thing. It looks nice, though, don't get me wrong. And, you know, it's DC Collectibles, so you kind of expect that it would look nice. But, yeah, we needed more. So, let's look at his articulation. The head, very stiff, but it turns left and right. It looks up just a little bit. That's eye level. Looks down really well. Doesn't really look up very much. Arms go out at the side that much. They can go up a little bit more. They go straight up that much. There's a bend at the elbow, and there is a bicep swivel. The elbow is double jointed, which is something you don't usually get on DC Collectibles. And it's got nice range of motion too, so it actually does what it's supposed to do. Wrist at the swivel at the wrist, and you have a hinge, which is nice. He is one of those characters that emotes with his hands so much, so you know, you would kind of need that kind of a hinge system. His torso, that's looking down, that's looking all the way up. It's kind of good, but the bottom part doesn't allow for a deeper hunch. Now going backwards, it really extends itself and it works properly, all of it, you know, but yeah, it doesn't work otherwise. And then there's like hardly any give for a swivel up at the diaphragm joint. It doesn't move to side to side very well, nothing. Legs have kind of limited articulation as well. That's how far they go up. If you want him to sit, they kind of go out when you put his legs out in front of him. Based on sculpt, you've got your point and your ankle pivot, but you have no hip swivel. And this guy doesn't have a boot swivel either. But the pivot is good on this. It's kind of weird because of where it is, so the legs kind of jut, the feet jut out when you use it. But I'm sure, you know, you guys can figure out poses to make it look better. It doesn't even stand very well either. It takes a little bit, but that's the articulation. Now I wanted to do a comparison so that you guys could see his size. This is why I chose this figure. I wanted that kind of size in comparison to Big Barda. It looks right, you know what I mean? Even if it is somewhat of a camera trick because he's a strange scale. Here he is next to a standard DCUC New 52 villain. That's Deathstroke. It's kind of weird, you know, that you're getting this from DCUC, and they're usually so good with scaling everybody with everyone else. Or I'm sorry, DC Collectibles. I don't know why I keep saying DCUC. Here he is. He's more in scale with Japanese figures that tend to run small. That's Akiba Red, as you guys know. It's just weird seeing him at this size, you know. Here he is next to Huntara from, I think she's from She-Ra. Motu Classics. Nice figure. But yeah, he's not very tall at all, you know. Very, very small. And now for the bottom line. Pretty much it's safe to say that I'm not very impressed with the icons. A lot of people are kind of going apeshit about them, but the majority of, you know, collectors are kind of, the response is lukewarm. Everybody's just like, meh, you know. And I even went the extra mile to choose someone who I already knew he was going to fit that role perfectly, and still the figure was just meh. It wasn't really anything amazing, you know. Nice paint, beautiful paint, nice sculpt, beautiful sculpt, but you know, besides that, you kind of just have, like I said, a whelming figure. Articulation, the torso is lacking because what you have doesn't fully work. The There's no anatomically correct thigh swivel. I mean, it's just too much. And this is why I stick so hardcore with my Japanese figures, because I don't go through this with them. They give you all the articulation on every figure all the time, and you don't have to worry about it. I mean, once you find the line that you like. So, guess what I'm going to be reviewing next? You already know. So anyway, this has been my look at the Icon series, Mr. Miracle from Earth2. It's a pass in my opinion, unless you're really a hardcore Mr. Miracle fan. That's really the only reason for picking this guy up. Other than that, I say pass. Wait a while and see if DC Collectibles is going to improve these guys. If they do, then they'll be worth, the price that they're asking. But anyway, I'm Strident. This is my story and I'm sticking to it. This has been my review of Mr. Miracle, like I said, from DC Collectibles Icon series. Stay away from them. Or unless you really love them, But anyway, that's it for me. You guys have been great. Peace outside.